Yeah. So, what does it take to make it in this industry?
Oh God, that's a good question. I think it takes a couple of things. It's not just
Hmm.
one thing, you know?
Yeah.
For me, the number one thing is first, you need to know.
Hello, everyone. I am Danny Wigfall, and this is the Design Your Remarkable Life podcast. Here, I interview incredible individuals who are leaving their mark on the world, generating wealth, and charting their own course. So get your notepads out and let's get into it. Now, our next guest is a firecracker in this industry, and I am so happy to have her on the show. She is also a very dear friend of mine. She has traveled the world and built this life doing what she loves. Who doesn't want that? I want to travel the world and do exactly what I love to do, right? She has worked for the biggest companies in entertainment. She's worked for Disney, Universal Studios, Virgin Voyages, and she has been a voice actress, a dancer, a singer, an actress in commercials, on stage comedian, also on stage musical theater as well. I don't know anything she hasn't done in front of the camera or on stage in the entertainment industry in a big way. So, without further ado, Allison Marianelli. Allie, it is so great to have you on the show. We're already starting off with laughs. This is so great. I'm going to dive right in because you have had the most interesting life. Like and I don't even want to spill the beans on all of the things you've done, but you've really created a remarkable life. So take us back to where it all started in the entertainment industry, being a performing artist. How did you even get into it?
Um, I honestly don't remember because it's just always been.
Mhm.
Anybody that you ask in my family, they're gonna tell you I was born that way. I was a performer before I could even really hold on to memories solidly. Like I've seen home videos and stuff, but I think really it started for me when I was in church as a little kid.
Mhm.
Um, because we would go to church and my favorite part was the singing. And little kids were not self-aware, so I would sing as loud as I could with all my effort because I loved it.
Mhm.
And I remember my parents always telling me the day they kind of went, "Oh, that's so cute. She's singing." And then pausing and looking at each other and going, "Wait, that's in pitch.
Mhm.
That's on key. She's 3."
Wow.
So it's just been something that's been part of my life for literally as long as I can remember.
Wow. Okay. So ever since you were little, you're like, I
Mhm.
was singing, I was doing all of the things.
I've
So when
never
did
not
you
done
book
it.
your first big role?
I actually booked my first big role 3 days before I graduated, with what everyone told me was a useless degree in musical theater. I
Mhm.
had auditioned for Disney down in Orlando. I wanted to be a performer for them, and at the time, there was a lot going on in my personal life that was not great, and I remember when I got the phone call asking me if I could come down, 3 months earlier than originally intended because they wanted me there sooner to put me in some different shows. Uh,
Mhm.
I remember looking around, feeling like my whole world was falling apart, and I was like, "I'm 3 days from graduating. Yes, let's go." So 4
Mhm.
weeks later, packed up my car, drove 16 hours south, and moved to Orlando for a year, and I worked there until I got a offer for Disney Cruise Line, and then I
Oh,
went and did
wow.
that.
Wow.
So
Okay, wait,
that
pause. Let's back it up because I'm sure people want to know what was that first audition like to work for Disney? Like that, what was that first? What did that entail?
it was so intense. So I auditioned
Mhm.
to be actually a character performer, so,
Mhm.
um, to preserve the magic for anybody who may have little ears listening along this, I was very, very good friends with some very well-known beloved characters. I know Mickey and Minnie really well. They're very good friends of mine. And any other friends who seem like they're around the same height, I probably am very good friends with them as well. So that audition was very physical. It was more of a dance-based audition. Despite being mostly a singer since the beginning, I actually booked a lot of dance heavy roles in the beginning of my career.
Mhm.
Um, I've had a couple of injuries
Mhm.
since then that have led to me not dancing as much and focusing more on the vocals. But
Mhm.
that was a very intense audition because
Okay.
I was sick when I did it.
Mhm.
I
Mm.
accidentally was so nervous that I didn't eat that morning and I felt nauseous. And a girl who was in the audition with me, she was very sweet. She was like, "Do you want to share mine? I brought snacks." I was like, "Sure, thank you." So I ate some of what she gave me and then immediately, no time to digest, it was like, "Okay, get up. We're going to learn the combo." And it's like the equivalent of eating and then going on a roller coaster.
Yeah.
And you
Yeah.
just are
Mhm.
so I remember that with my nerves, when we all got sent back out into the hall to wait to be called in groups of 4,
Mhm.
I felt so nauseous. It was so bad. I had a headache. It was awful.
Oh.
And I reached the point of there's no way trying to keep myself from being sick is going to feel worse than actually being sick. Ran to the bathroom, was sick. The other 3 girls in my group did that very fake, "Oh my god, are you okay? Oh, well,
Mm.
break a leg in there. I'm sure you're gonna be fine." And I was like, "Yup." And I was like, "Mm-hmm."
Oh, wow. Mhm.
That door opened, they called my number. I went in like nothing was wrong, and I think it actually threw those girls off a little bit because I remember getting this the entire time we're in the room, I can see them in the mirror just going, went in, made it through all the audition, gave everything I had, and then when we got out in the hallway, the second the door closed, I collapsed to the ground, and I was like, "I'm gonna die." And they just looked at me, they're
Mhm.
like, "How did you do that?" And I'm like, "Adrenaline's amazing."
Yes, yes.
It was a
Okay, and
really
so
intense
from there,
audition.
you worked for Disney for a year?
I moved to Florida and I performed down there for them for just under a year, probably closer to
Mhm.
like 9, 10 months.
Okay,
Now,
yeah.
previously, because I had been in university just a couple hours south of New York, my friends and I would go to auditions in New York all of the time because it was just a train ride away.
Mhm.
I had
Mhm.
auditioned for Disney Cruise Line previously when I was still in school. And
Mhm.
then through working for them down in Orlando, there's opportunities provided to cast members. Sometimes they'll have special like meet and greets with casting directors from other areas of the
Mhm.
company. And at the time,
Mhm.
they had one for Disney Cruise Line. So I went to it, and the guy who was hosting it was the casting director, and he actually remembered me from the auditions in New York.
Wow.
So
Okay.
a couple of weeks after that little meet and greet thing, he called me and offered me my first Disney Cruise Line contract, which started 6 weeks later after that phone call.
Oh, wow.
Yeah,
Wow. So how was that? Disney Cruise Line. And this is where, well, not yet. Your first contract is not where I met you. It's your second contract, which is when I met you.
this was the
But
beginning that
wow.
led to you.
Yes, yes. Our friendship. The very beginning of it, right? So yes, okay. So then you did Disney Cruise Line. How was that? How was living on the boat? Because that's a very different experience.
Ship life is a very, very different way of living. There is no in between. People either love living and working on a boat or they absolutely hate it and they only do it once. I fell
Mhm.
into the former category of I loved it. I've
Mhm.
always loved the ocean. I've always loved being on the ocean. So it's like, this is in my blood. Um, there were very tiny cabins that we lived in, as you well remember.
Oh yeah. You could touch it literally if you stretch your arms out like one wall to the other.
I could even do that, and I'm only 5 feet tall. Like, I don't know how some of my taller castmates did it. I'm a little person, and even I was like, this is tiny.
Mhm.
But
Mhm.
it was really cool because it was my first experience um, in a real, like, what I did in Orlando was technically a college internship program. It's called the Disney
Mhm.
College Program. So it was an internship program. It wasn't a fully official professional job yet.
Mhm.
This cruise line was my first like professional job.
Yeah.
And
Mhm.
so I experienced, flying and moving to Toronto for a few months for rehearsals. And then you fly down to Florida and you learn how to, all this like safety stuff that goes into living on a ship, things that you have to be aware of, because if something goes wrong at sea, it goes wrong fast and you have to be prepared. Um, Learning how to navigate different personalities that
Mhm.
don't necessarily mesh with yours, but you're living and working on top of each other. So you need to find a way forward that is,
Mhm.
you know, peaceful and professional for everyone.
Yeah. Yeah.
And then I think there's just a lot of learning and growth that happens for you as a person on those first initial professional jobs.
Mhm.
It's where you're going to make your mistakes and you
Mhm.
get to see how you react as a person to those mistakes. How do you handle them? Do you learn
Yeah.
from them? Do you own up to it? Or,
Mhm.
and it brings a level of self-awareness that I think is impossible to achieve without being in a professional setting and making those mistakes
Mhm.
and having the
Gotcha.
opportunity to learn and grow,
Yeah.
if that makes any
Yeah.
sense.
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely. So even with living on a boat, what was that life like? Because I would imagine it's so different than living on land. Like, what was that like? And then you're also living your dreams, I would imagine, too.
Yeah.
It's just like, I'm working in entertainment, I'm doing the things, I'm living on the boat, I'm far away from my family. What was that like?
Well, now see, I've always been a bit of a free spirit. I grew
Hmm.
up in small town America. Actually, I grew up uh probably a good 15-minute drive outside of the small town in like where the forest is and the
Hmm.
farms.
Hmm.
So,
Hmm.
having such big ambitions and dreams from such a young age,
Yeah.
I always knew I wanted to sing. I wanted to see the world. Anytime I saw like movies or photos or anything that involved traveling, I was immediately obsessed with it. Even when I was 10 and my parents
Hmm.
were going to take us to Disney World. They're like,
Hmm.
"Surprise! This is your big
Hmm.
Christmas present to me and my sister." I don't know if anybody remembers this, but back in the day, if you went through a travel agent, they would give you a VHS tape, and it was like a promo tape of where you were going.
Hmm.
I They let you keep it. I wore out that VHS tape so that by the time we got to Florida 6 months later, I knew where all the parks were, what there was and was not to do. Like, I planned it all out. I was so excited to go somewhere outside of where I'd always known.
Yeah.
And then, there's not a lot of opportunity
Mhm.
in small town America where you want to do theater, you want to pursue all of that professionally, at least back then. It's a little different
Yeah.
now. The pandemic changed a lot with remote performance, remote recording,
Yep.
and such. But back then, you had to go where the opportunities were in the city. So I always wanted to
Mhm.
leave. So being away from my family, it did and it didn't affect me because I've always been
Mhm.
such a free spirit and so independent that honestly, when I was put out on my own, I flourished as a human being and I really came
Okay.
into my own.
Yeah.
And my parents even
Yeah.
saw that and they would comment on it. They're like, "You're meant to do this.
Mhm.
You weren't meant to stay here."
Mhm.
But I go back
Mhm.
and I visit all the time. So,
Yeah. Yeah. Gotcha.
um,
Okay.
and then as far as living on the ship, I would equate it to like being in college, but instead of going to class, you had work. So it's
Mhm.
like,
Mm. Ooh, that's
you
good.
have
Yeah. Mhm.
you'd have classes certain hours of certain days of the week. You'd have work certain hours, certain days of the week, and then your breaks in between um, were when you would go, you'd get off the ship and go explore the local market, or in our case, probably looking for free internet at the Starbucks,
Yes. Or Dunkin' Donuts.
Dunkin' Donuts, or going to like try some local cuisine because it was really cool.
Mhm.
Like, waking up in a different country every day. It's like, I went to sleep, I'm in Florida. I woke up, I'm in the Bahamas. I woke up the next day and I was in Costa Rica. Like, I mean, not
Mhm.
that quickly, but you know what I mean. It's
Mhm.
like waking up and
Yeah.
being in a new place
Yeah.
every day, just seeing the world, getting exposed to different cultures, different food, different people, different beliefs, different personalities.
Mhm.
I don't think there is a world in which that doesn't force you to grow, unless you are someone who is super stubborn and
Yeah.
refuses to grow. But I feel
Yeah.
like your normal average reasonable person, you put them in that type of situation, especially in your early 20s, very formative
Mhm.
years, you're going to grow. You're going to change. You're going to learn about
Mhm. Mhm. So what happened after Disney Cruise Line? So you did your Disney Cruise Line contract, right? You're living on a ship, you're flourishing, you're growing. Also, before I even ask that question, like, what did your calendar look like? Because I would imagine just living on a boat is a very different experience. Like, what did your calendar look like from morning to nighttime, for example?
Oh gosh. Normally morning we would have character breakfast, so we'd be up really early, like before the
Hmm.
sun, and you'll probably head to crew mess, which is where the cafeteria for anybody watching who does not know, or listening who doesn't know what that is. That's like where you would go get your food because you don't have a kitchen. You're eating whatever's available. Probably
Yeah.
run there, grab some sort of breakfast, head up to the green room, get into your costume, get dressed, head out. You'll probably do character breakfast meet and greets for an hour or so, couple hours,
Hmm.
with breaks scattered in there
Hmm.
because there's legally they cannot keep you in those costumes beyond a certain point for health and safety reasons.
Hmm.
And then you probably have a little bit of break, grab a snack, drink water, then do like another session of like meeting and greeting somewhere
Hmm.
around the ship, uh, some sort of little show or whatever. And then you'd probably have like a bigger break,
Hmm.
go get lunch, do laundry, like, your average just everyday things that you would do
Yeah.
if you were living on land.
Hmm.
And we're in college. Not, I don't think if your
Yeah.
average 9 to 5, this is not your schedule where you're just taking a break to go do laundry. I don't know, maybe now with work from home, there's that situation.
There might be, yeah.
No. And then after
Yeah.
lunch, you'd probably have, it would depend on if it was a sea day or a port day. If you're in
Right.
port, big chunk of your day in the middle, you're going to probably have anywhere from like 5 to 8 or 10 hours just empty because you're in port. So none of the sailors, none of the guests are on the ship. They're out. They're in the port exploring where they wanted to. That's the whole reason they came on the cruise. It's the Disney experience to also see these places. Now, if
Mhm.
it's a sea day, it's different. Sea day, you're going to be stacked and you're going to be working probably more events throughout the day with smaller breaks in between because when you're in the middle of the ocean, all the sailors are
Mhm.
there.
Mhm.
You are the entertainment. You are there to be part of their experience.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah.
yeah, and sometimes you'd be in like if I had like a morning and afternoon of like being in costume and performing, then that evening I'd probably have a break for dinner and a shower and then I would change into like a normal uniform and I
Mhm.
would help other characters, probably the princesses at nighttime when it would be like a
Yeah.
meet and greet line for them. And that job was just, making sure everyone is ready to meet them when they get up there. Cameras are ready, autograph books are good to go. Maybe if you see someone who's a little bit rowdy, just reminding them, we treat all our characters with respect,
Mhm.
be
Mhm.
kind, no pushing or pulling or punching or anything like
Mhm.
that.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah. And it would
Yeah.
just that's how it would flow. And your contracts are for a certain amount of months. I believe the contracts I did with Disney were 7 and 8 months, and that included usually about like a month and a half of rehearsal at the beginning, and then
Mhm.
like 6 to 7 months on the ship. My second
Mhm.
contract was different because I was a replacement. So
Mhm.
I skipped the rehearsal process. I had
Yeah.
finished my first contract. 2 weeks later, I got a phone call asking, "Hey, can you come back?" And
Mhm.
that was your
Mhm.
cast.
Yep. Yep.
You and I had briefly met in passing when I was leaving my first contract and you were coming on.
Yep.
I remember meeting you, but I also had a friend in your cast who had worked in Orlando with me. And so for those two
Mhm.
weeks, it was mostly her and I hanging out. But
Yeah.
then when I came back, before I even came back, I remember you messaging me um, because apparently it was me and one other person were coming to be replacements for
Yeah.
people who had just left the contract or were leaving for one reason or another.
Mhm.
And so you had to pick a new roommate.
Yep. I did. Great choice. I love that, it's changed everything, just even our friendship, our dynamic, everything. It was just a beautiful experience. So, Disney Cruise Line, the fact that that was your first like big job says a lot, like you when I think of entertainment companies and places that performing artists can perform at, Disney is up there. It's pinnacle, so that's your first job. Wow. Amazing,
I
right?
don't I don't think it hit me or that I realized that at the time because I was
Mhm.
21, 22, and to
Yeah.
me, I was just happy to be employed, and I am a huge Disney fan,
Yeah.
huge Disney nerd. We
Mhm.
had a Disney jar when I was in college because my friends were like, "Every time you quote or reference Disney, money in the jar." I saved a lot of money that way, honestly.
Yeah. Yeah. So
But
after
yeah,
Disney Cruise Line, what did you do?
after Disney Cruise Line, I actually moved to Los Angeles about 6 months after I finished my first contract, which
Mhm.
nobody saw coming, including me, because since I could remember, when I was about 14 and I'd gone to New York for the first time and seen my first Broadway show, I had like these blinders on. I was like, New York, New York, New York. I'm gonna move to New York. I'm gonna
Yeah.
be on Broadway. And
Mhm.
then on our contract, we ended up doing a Panama Canal crossing and ended up porting out of Los Angeles and doing the
Mhm.
Mexican Riviera. And I had never been to the West Coast before. That was my very first exposure ever to anything West Coast.
Mm.
And I will never forget sailing into LA for the first time, seeing it like from the railing of the ship, and it's honestly beautiful to see it from sea. It
Yeah.
reminds me of Europe. It reminds me of Italy
Mhm.
because
Mhm.
I've been to Italy to visit family, and the way it the houses are just built into the hills and the mountains, and it's
Mhm.
beautiful. And it
Mhm.
reminded me, seeing all the hills built into the mountainside and the way the city seemed to flow with the land and not just be
Mhm.
like mountains, forest, city, grid. Like
Mhm.
that's how some of
Mhm.
a lot of East Coast cities are. And I
Mhm.
wasn't prepared for the way I kind of like fell in love with Los Angeles while we were out there for the tail end of our contract. And
Yeah.
by the end of it, I was like, I need to move here. I don't know
Mhm.
how to explain it other than there are certain times in my life where it has felt like the red string of fate is tied
Mhm.
around my sternum
Yeah.
and I'm being pulled. And it's such
Mhm.
a strong instinct. I have to follow it because
Yeah.
while I may not know where it's taking me or what's going to happen when I follow it, I do know for sure if I ignore that, it's a mistake and I will regret it.
Oh, that's good. That's good. Yeah, that's good, Allie. Because even just as a performing artist or in our careers, period, there's moments where we may have our eyes set on something. Like you were set on New York. It's New York, New York, New York. But then you had this feeling of like, wait a second, things are shifting, things are changing. Let me trust that and go with that. That's not always easy to do, but you were able to do that.
Yeah. And it
Yeah.
was, I'm not gonna lie, scary. Like,
Mm-hmm.
I only knew you and
Mm-hmm.
Tyson
Yeah.
and maybe one other person. Other than that, I didn't know a single soul in Los Angeles. I had a ton of friends in New York. I would have been able to
Mm-hmm.
move up there and immediately have community.
Yeah.
So, like, that was terrifying.
Yeah. Yeah.
But you know what? When I remember that feeling of moving to Los Angeles and getting ready and getting out there, I don't remember feeling the fear. All I
Mhm.
remember is being excited. I
Yeah.
knew I was at the beginning of something important. I knew it
Mhm.
was the beginning of a huge shift and a huge chapter.
Mhm.
Good Lord, was I right? I moved out to LA and it took me a while to find my
Mhm.
feet, to figure out
Mhm.
uh, community, to figure out career stuff. I ended
Mhm.
up moving out there and giving myself a lot more questions than there were answers. And there
Mhm.
was a lot of trial and error. There was a lot of figuring it out because I was so used to focusing on theater, but everything out there is film and television.
Yep.
And so that's a whole different skill set. Like, yes, there's
Yeah.
overlap, but it was almost like starting over from square one.
Yeah. Mhm.
But, God is good. And
Yeah.
the way things unfolded out there, it could only be because of a greater purpose, because of a greater plan, a higher power going, yep,
Mhm.
there we go. Nope, go
Yeah.
that way. I know you thought you were going
Yeah.
that way. Now we're going this way. I'm like, okay,
Mhm.
let's go.
Okay, so now you're living in LA, something totally different, something very, I mean, even a different industry. It's still within entertainment, but television and film is very different than theater, 100%.
Very.
Um, so how did you navigate now living in LA?
Well, I had a best friend who was pretty awesome living out there, who already knew the city really well. So she was a big help to me, helping me
Mhm.
adjust, learn the city, learn where to even like what websites to sign up for to apply for auditions, where would
Mhm.
be a good idea to take classes. Um, because I moved out there with a restaurant job. I was waiting tables
Mhm.
with
Mm.
PF Chang's.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Um, and I knew the second I got an entertainment job, I was going to get out of that. I ended up booking, I think within 6 months. No, I'm sorry, not within 6 months, within a week. What am I talking about? Within a week of moving there, I had booked something. Sorry, I can't. Look, it was a long time ago. We're not going to say how long because her
Right.
genetics are doing her favors.
Yeah.
Um, yeah, within a week, I had my first audition, but it was a theater audition. It
Yeah.
was for a local, like a small tour of
Mhm.
Nickelodeon's Dora the Explorer live, Dora's Pirate
Yeah.
Adventure. So it was still
Yeah.
theater, still dancing and singing. But I remember, like, within a week, I had the of moving out there, I had the audition. Uh, a week after that, I had booked it. And so within my first couple of months out there, I was able to, I was still waiting tables because that job wasn't, it was just a tour and it was a temporary thing. It wasn't enough to
Yep.
quit completely.
Mhm.
But it was just like, I felt like affirmation, like, hey, yeah, you're in the
Yeah.
right place. You're doing the right thing. And then I think
Yeah.
when that tour ended, almost immediately, I booked a summer job at Six Flags, hosting
Mhm.
a show in one of their theaters. And that one was enough for me to go,
Mhm.
I'm not waiting tables anymore. I'm going to go do
Mhm.
this.
Yeah.
Even though it's
Yeah.
temporary, it's a foot in the door with a bigger company.
Yeah.
And through connections that I made there at Six Flags, I met people who worked for Universal Studios. And then they
Mhm.
told me about auditions that were coming up for something called Halloween Horror Nights.
Mhm.
So then I auditioned for that. And this is
Yeah.
all within the first, I mean, 6 months of me living there.
Mhm.
And I booked it with Universal. I actually remember I went to an event. It was a convention, like an actors convention that was held downtown. It was hosted by Backstage, the
Yep.
website that does a lot of theater auditions. And I ran into the man who became my mentor in many ways during my time at Universal. His name is Scott Kleckner. And I remember I had
Mhm.
my headshots and my resumes in my bag, and I was just going around talking to everybody. And when he got my resume in front of him, he saw Disney on there. I remember him taking a pen and like circling it in red and being like, we have auditions coming up. You should be there. And that was how I ended up
Mhm.
working for Universal Studios.
Mhm.
And I was with Universal Studios performing professionally in some way, shape, or form pretty much full time from that day, like from then until I left Los Angeles 7, 8 years later in the beginning of 2020.
Okay, got you. Wow.
Yeah.
Okay. So we're seeing all the glitz and glamour, right? The went to Disney. Like my first job was at Disney, and then then I got another Disney job, and then now I'm in LA, and I'm traveling. I'm doing what I love, and then now I'm working this event that leads to this other gig and this other gig. I would
Mhm.
imagine there's some down times too within that as well. Those are the things that sometimes we don't talk about as much, right? Like those in between seasons, right? Um, can you speak to a little bit of that of like, what if, my first job is not Disney, but I
Yes.
know I want to do this. I know I want to go after this, right? Like you've lived this remarkable life where you're booking and you're booking and you're booking and it's next thing and next thing. And one thing I love is like you're a connector with people. There's a lot of like, I don't know anybody you don't know. Like you you know a lot of people and you're talented and you have all of the things, and there's someone that is listening in on this podcast that's like, oh my goodness, like I'm in entertainment or I want to do more in entertainment. Can you speak to a little bit of also those down moments as well, the in
Yeah.
between moments? I feel like those are the moments that don't get highlighted, that we
Mhm.
need to hear more perspective on.
I think it's easier to talk about the ups because there's not as many of them as there is the downs in this roller
Mm,
coaster that is life, but especially life in the entertainment industry. Um,
okay.
yes, I was working for Universal, but Universal definitely became a bit of a sandbox for me to stick my head into.
Mhm,
Um, I wasn't singing. I
mhm,
wasn't really dancing as much
mm,
anymore. I was still inside a character costume. You couldn't
mhm,
see me. You would see Winnie Woodpecker or SpongeBob.
mhm, mhm.
And to me, yes, it was a professional performer job, and I have nothing but immense respect for the people that do that work
Yeah.
because it is extremely difficult and it takes a level of skill that I think a lot of people underestimate.
Mhm.
And even though it was not my dream to be inside of a costume like that, it did still teach me a lot the about like physicality and communicating emotion when you cannot use your words. So
Yeah.
even though it wasn't my dream, it was still I was still learning something. There was still something there to glean.
Mhm,
And I think that is the most important thing to remember about the downtimes because yes, I've booked all of these things, but for the Disney, the Universal, the couple of things I've named that I booked, there's probably a good 1,000 auditions that I've been on that I didn't.
mhm,
It's a
mhm.
numbers game. You just have
Yeah.
to keep going and going and going. During all those years, I was auditioning also for the things I really wanted to be singing in like regional theater locally. Could never get my
Mhm.
foot in the door there. It's a very small, closed circle.
Yeah.
Uh, I was auditioning for television, for commercials. I was trying to get an agent,
Mhm,
and I couldn't. It did not matter
mhm,
what I
mhm.
did, what classes I took, how much I trained.
Yeah.
I remember feeling so stuck because
Mm,
I was trying so hard to go after these other things and it just wasn't happening.
mhm,
It just
mhm.
it's LA is a tough town. It is not easy. It's not for the faint of heart. This
Yeah.
industry is not easy for the faint of heart.
Mhm,
And I think I actually reached a point where I had been trying so much that I felt so discouraged. And I went, well, at least I'm still performing professionally in this costume.
mhm, mhm.
And I think I stopped trying as hard because it felt
Mm.
comfortable and
Mhm,
familiar and safe, even though
mhm,
there were plenty of times uh, I was not treated well,
mhm,
or I would show up to auditions within the company internally and do my best and be told, hmm, still not good enough. We
mhm,
still don't want you. We
mm,
still don't want to see your face. We want to keep you in this costume. Um,
mm.
I, a lot of my early years have resulted in some things that I'm still in therapy for, namely
Okay.
body dysmorphia,
Mhm,
because I have been blessed And
Yeah.
when you're 5 feet tall and built like a Coke bottle,
Mhm.
you get told you're fat a lot.
Mm.
And
Mm.
in the industry now, there's a lot of revolution, and there's like people are coming around, casting directors are coming around. They're starting to care a little less about what you look like and care more
Mhm.
about what you can do.
Yeah.
But in my first decade of my career, it was still so focused on size and look. And
Mhm.
I cannot tell you how many times, I could not count the amount I was told, oh, you're perfect for this role, but your audition was amazing. We love you, but you just don't look right. But you're just too big. But
Mm.
you're just not pretty enough.
Mm.
You hear that enough times and it
Yeah.
will mess with you
Yeah.
hard.
Yeah. 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 I'm sorry
Especially,
about that.
it's
Yeah.
okay. I mean,
Mm.
I had a lot of early childhood trauma
Mhm.
with bullying, and my peers made me strong, made me tough.
Yeah. Yeah.
But that was also, kids are not very creative. What's the first thing they're going to attack? What you look like.
Mhm.
So hearing all of that in the industry, it compounded upon existing wounds from childhood.
Mhm.
And
Right.
there's this thing called confirmation bias. And I was
Mhm.
definitely on the receiving end of, oh, this must be true. This thing I've
Right.
thought and held on to since childhood. Because now I'm hearing it professionally.
Yeah.
I wasn't
Yeah.
fat. I'm not fat. I just had huge knockers.
Mhm. Mhm. Yeah, yeah. I think you bring up a very first of all, thank you for sharing your vulnerability, your story, your truth there. Um I do not take that lightly at all. So thank you for sharing that. Um and one thing I wanted to say is you defied the odds, cuz although different people, I don't know who was saying these things, they were saying these things to you over and over.
Mhm.
But you were booking and you were doing the things and getting the things, and that didn't stop you. There's this relentlessness energy that you have where it's like, yes, maybe I didn't book this, or maybe I'm not in my dream role per se. I'm still in the industry I want to be in, and I'm going to keep going after those dream roles. And that is powerful. I remember when I first moved to LA, I was on an audition. I want to say it was for maybe a Beyonce tour or something like that. And when we came in, I just remember that the casting director was like, "Yep, well, everyone that's new to LA, you won't be here next year. You know, about half of you
Oh,
guys go back home packing." I was like, "That won't be me," but it takes a lot. It takes a
yeah.
lot to stay, and that relentlessness that you have to keep going, even to deal with that bullying, or to be even just coming from a smaller town, the thoughts of like, oh, can I even make it in the big city per se? Like that thought in itself, or even just like you went from Disney, to Disney to Universal. And I don't want to spill the beans, but now Universal globally, Japan, Beijing, like you've done so much. And then with Virgin as well, can you
Yeah.
speak a little bit about like, yes, you had those down moments and you had those in between moments. How did you get through the down moments? Because on the outside looking in, people are going to see Disney, Universal, Virgin, these are some of these are the top entertainment companies. Not even some of these are the top entertainment companies in the world, not
Yeah.
just the United States, the world. So, can you speak a little bit about like how you just had that relentlessness to keep going, even though you were faced with so much criticism, and there's a lot of criticism that happens within the industry, and a lot of open discrimination that happens within the industry. Oh, you're not this enough for this role. You're not this. Your hair's not this color, right?
Yeah.
Can you speak a little bit about how you work through that to still win and succeed and not 100% pivot into not doing something that you love?
Um, the first and loudest thing that comes to my mind is people.
Mm,
Choosing the people that you are surrounded by is
yeah.
so important. My community, my friends, the people that I chose to keep close in my life were so very important. And it's not just any people, because like you and I have always said, quality over quantity.
Yeah.
From the outside looking in, it probably looks like I have a lot of friends. I'm friends with everybody. I can count on one hand the amount of those people who really, truly know me.
Mm-hmm.
I'm
Mm-hmm.
talking to one of them. Those people
Mm-hmm.
are the ones who have
Yeah.
seen me. They've defied. It's the people who defy your worst fears.
Mm-hmm.
The ones who see you at your bottom worst, the
Mm-hmm.
ugliest, maddest, meanest, just rock bottomest version of yourself.
Yeah.
And they don't bat an eye.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
The
Mm-hmm.
ones who go, yeah, all right, well, I'm going to sit here on rock bottom with you. And when you're ready to get up, we'll get up together.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Those are the people
Yeah.
that you got to keep close, because those are the people, they don't have ulterior motives. They're not there to just get something from you.
Mm-hmm.
They're there not because of what you can do or what your talents are or what you can do for them. They are there because of who you are as
Yeah.
a person, your spirit, your energy, that thing that we are born with
Mm-hmm.
that immediately makes you worthy and valuable of things like friendship and love and trust. Not your job, not your accomplishments, who you are. Those people
Mm-hmm.
are the ones you keep them close, because they're the ones that get you through the muck and the mire.
Yeah. Yeah.
That
Mm-hmm.
is how I got through my downtimes, because I would come to them. Maybe I'd had, 100 too many rejections in a row, and I was just really feeling it. Like there have been plenty of phone calls, plenty of group texts where it's like, maybe I am not as good as I think I am. Maybe
Mm-hmm.
all of the jobs I've booked have just been a fluke, and the
Mm-hmm.
imposter syndrome kicks in. And oh no, they've finally caught on to me, and I'm not gonna book anymore because this, that, and the third.
Yeah.
And to
Yeah.
have those people who go, no, no, no. First of all, we're gonna stop speaking
Mm-hmm.
these lies about my friend
Mm-hmm.
like that. Second of
Mm-hmm.
all, they remind me who the I am.
Woo! Come on now.
Not trying to. They remind me who the bleep I am,
Yeah.
because it's
Yeah.
easy to forget when you got so many people trying to speak the opposite of what you are over you as if it is truth.
Mhm.
I
Mhm.
I had to make sure I only listened to the people I knew without question, know me, and speak actual truth
Yeah.
in my life.
Mhm. Mhm.
That is how I
Yeah.
make it through.
Yeah. Oh, that's good. That's really good, Allie. So,
Mm.
Allie, you've
Yeah.
done acting, singing, dancing, voice acting, character work, improv comedian, like the list goes on of all of the things.
Yeah.
What does it take? And you've worked at the top companies, Disney, Universal, Virgin. I mean, they're just, and the list goes on. I'm just naming a few here.
Well,
What
and
does it
most of my
take to,
success has come just within the
Mhm.
last few years. I've been doing this for 15 years.
Yeah.
Most of the big the impressive things that from the outside are going to look, oh my God, amazing.
Yeah.
I only started booking them 5 years ago.
Mm-hmm.
There's a whole decade of work and what I like to call character development
Yeah. Yeah.
before that happened, before those doors really started opening.
Yeah. So what does it take to make it in this industry?
Oh God, that's a good question. I think it takes a couple of things. It's not just
Mm-hmm.
one thing, you know?
Yeah.
For me, the number one thing is first, you need to know without a doubt, you would not be living your fullest life or having true joy doing anything else. If there
Mm-hmm.
is anything else that you could see yourself doing and living a full, complete, joyful life, for the love
Mm-hmm.
of God, go do it. Because
Mm-hmm.
I tried. I tried to listen to family members who, and even friends who were very well intentioned and intelligent people whose opinions I respect. You'd be such a good teacher. You'd be so good at this or that and the third.
Mm-hmm.
And I did try to go do those careers because I don't do anything halfway. It
Yeah.
is 150% or nothing with me
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
because the one thing I'll never compromise is my integrity.
Mm-hmm.
Whether I am hosting my own show and singing my own 45-minute solo woman show on stage, or I am dressing up as a character, I
Yeah.
am going to bring the
Yeah.
same level of effort and integrity to each job.
Mm-hmm.
If I
Mm-hmm.
am teaching kindergarten, which I have done
Mm-hmm.
as like an in-between survival job, I'm still giving you 150% of my absolute best ability in that role.
Yeah. Beautiful.
So when I say I tried other careers, I tried to find joy and fulfillment doing other jobs that, yes, I am very good at. I was good at those jobs.
Mm-hmm.
I felt dead inside. They did not
Mm.
feed me. They did not nourish my soul the way creating and performing does.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah.
above anything else, you need that. And if you
Mm-hmm.
don't have that, if you really can find joy and full life doing something else, go do it.
Mm-hmm.
Because you
Mm-hmm.
need that bone deep drive and belief to keep going through the rejection, through the ridicule, through the straight up bullying and meanness that can happen a lot.
Mm-hmm. 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 Yeah.
And then the other things you need to be careful of who you listen to. Make sure that you're
Mm-hmm.
listening only to your quality crew, not the
Mm-hmm.
quantity of voices that like to sound off in our lives.
Yeah.
And then whatever it is you're focusing on, whether it's dance or voiceover or writing, make sure that you're getting in class if you can.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Classes or workshops, it's a muscle, so you gotta keep it sharp. You gotta stay on top of it. Even just as
Mm-hmm.
recently as a month ago, I had just finished a full course
Yeah.
at UCB because
Mm-hmm.
there's so many sides to creating. There's so many
Yeah.
sides to storytelling, which is what
Mm-hmm.
at the end of the day, that is what we're doing. We're
Yeah.
telling stories.
Mm-hmm.
And you just got to stay on top of it. You know,
Yeah.
keep yourself sharp. Pure born talent is only going to take you so far.
Yeah.
It'll never take you as far as hard work and
Mm.
drive. A
Mm-hmm.
less talented person who works harder with more drive will make it so much farther than someone who was just born with
Mm-hmm.
that natural talent
Mm-hmm.
every
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. So if you had to go back to the very beginning of your career
time.
and this time you got to change some things up, what would you change, if anything at all?
I think I would listen sooner to certain
Mm-hmm.
pieces of advice from my quality crew, I think I would have started getting into voiceover a lot sooner. It
Mm-hmm.
took years of people telling me that I needed to go try that before I
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
did. And
Mm-hmm.
I felt a little silly for how long it
Mm-hmm.
took me to do that because once I started, doors just started opening.
Mm-hmm.
And I always
Mm-hmm.
take that as a sign, like when you step in a direction, the doors just start flying open.
Yeah.
It's usually an indication of, hey, you're on the right path. Um,
Mm-hmm.
I honestly probably would have gotten my breast reduction sooner.
Mm. Yeah.
I'm
Yeah.
glad that I got it,
Mm-hmm.
but I would have gotten it sooner, honestly.
Okay.
I might have
Okay.
avoided some physical injuries. I might have avoided some back pain
Mm-hmm.
and deformities in my spine had I gotten
Okay.
it sooner. But
Mm-hmm.
there are some opportunities that I think would have been more available to me.
Okay.
Maybe, maybe not. Who knows? I
Yeah.
do believe very much in what is meant for you will be yours,
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
but I do not think it is a coincidence that literally within a week of me getting my reduction, I booked my dream job at the time.
Mm. Well, to be fair, you know, as a friend that was going through this journey with you,
Oh,
you prepared.
yeah.
You prepared for that, So I, as a friend on the outside looking in, did not give that credit. You worked your butt off. You worked your butt off for that.
Yeah.
So, yes, the timing lines up, but in my eyes, that was not the reason why.
And I think
Mhm.
the only other thing I would do if I could like go back, tell myself, I would tell myself to take more risks sooner. Just go for it
Yeah.
and see what happens. Because I think I let
Mhm.
fear um hold me back a
Yeah.
lot in my early
Mhm.
20s, my mid
Mhm.
20s, those formative
Yeah.
years.
Mhm.
And now that I'm no longer in my mid 20s, is all
Mhm.
I'm gonna say.
Yeah. 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 Yeah.
I don't know if there's less fear
Mhm.
or if I've just gotten to a point where I'm like, yep, it's there. And I don't care anymore. We're doing
Yeah.
it. We're gonna do it
Yeah.
afraid.
Mhm. Yeah. So doing it, some people don't know what that means, right? So if you had to go back to, let's say, first moving to Los Angeles, right? What's something you would do now to just hit the ground running with moving into Los Angeles? Because some people are like, yes, I know I need to do the things, I need to hit the ground running, but what is that? What does that look like? What steps do I need to take? What
Honestly,
steps or advice? Uh huh.
I'd get in class. I would get in
Mm
class immediately.
hmm. Mm hmm.
I would research, okay, what do I want to focus on? For me, this is a perfect example of what I'm planning to do when I move back to LA.
Yeah.
I really want to focus more on improv and comedy and writing. That is a
Yeah.
direction that I feel that red string of fate pulling. So I am
Yeah.
listening.
Mm hmm.
So I already know, okay, the really good schools for that are Upright Citizens Brigade and the Groundlings.
Mm hmm.
There was also RIP, IO West, and I
Yeah.
believe Second City. I'm not sure if Second City is still in LA anymore. I know that they're very heavily in Chicago. But the two big ones, hey, Shotty Town, hey. Mm.
She's saying that because I'm from Chicago. So I have my feelings there of I love Chicago. So here we go.
And
But yeah,
I'm just saying,
we are
I've
the second
literally
city.
never met a person from Chicago that I haven't liked.
Just saying.
Just
Like from the
saying.
actual city.
Like
Let's
from the
clarify
yeah,
that too.
from the actual city.
Hmm.
Anywho, I would get in
Yeah.
class. The first thing I'd do is get in class because class is where you network. It is where you meet
Yeah.
people who are on a similar path to you. You
Hmm.
might meet people, normally you will meet people who are further along that path than you. So they've
Yeah.
been where you are. This is where you make your connections. It's where you make friends. It's where you can learn not just from the teacher teaching class, but also from your classmates. And your
Yeah.
network in this industry is everything. So
Yeah.
the very first thing I would do is I would get in class so much faster. I would do my
Yeah.
research on my schools and get in my classes so much faster.
Oh, that's good. That's good. What two tools does
Ooh,
someone that is working in entertainment or want to work in entertainment, what do they need?
it's different than when I started now because the
Hmm.
pandemic changed a lot. So if you don't have one, you can get one on Amazon for really cheap. I got mine at Walmart. Get a ring light with a setup
Hmm.
that can hold your phone, um, and one of those backdrops that you can put up to
Yeah.
give you a nice, clean, professional looking background. Because
Yeah.
nowadays you're self-taping a lot,
Yep.
and it's just you need good lighting and you need a nice, clean background
Yeah.
from the get-go. Have as physical tools, you need those.
Hmm.
Um, you should also be on certain websites because that's how you're going to get your auditions. Actors Access, casting networks. If
Hmm.
you're in LA, Casting Frontier, or maybe it's called
Hmm.
Direct Submit now. I'm not sure. Um,
Hmm.
Backstage, especially if you're in New York or wanting to do live theater. Um, make sure you're keeping your resume up to date. Uh, get as much footage of you doing your performances as you can so you can have reels to submit to give examples of your work to make people want to bring you in for these auditions.
Hmm.
Like that's just
Yep.
off the top of my head. Physically, you need the hardware,
Yep.
the accoutrement to film your auditions.
Yep.
You need to be on those websites.
Hmm.
Trying to think of anything else.
Yeah.
Like
No,
those are
that's
the big
good.
ones.
And you
Those are
said
the
be in class too, which was before. So yeah,
be in
throw that
class.
in. Yep. Hmm.
Be networking.
Yeah.
Like you
Yeah.
could, even if you're not in class, do what I did my first year of being in LA. Go to if they have them anymore, a convention that was
Hmm.
hosted by Backstage, one of those websites, where it
Yeah.
was a networking event. Go to networking events. If you can't afford class, go to a networking event.
Yeah.
Find a
Hmm.
way to network. Class is just the
Hmm.
first thing that comes to mind because it's easiest and also smart to keep your muscles worked
Hmm.
out and sharp and focused. But
Yep.
if you can't afford class, because I know class can be very expensive,
Hmm.
especially when you're already living in an expensive city, find a networking event. Half the time you can find some for free.
Hmm. Yeah. Yeah. So, Allie, of all the jobs you have done, what has been the pinnacle, your favorite? Because you've worked for all of these amazing companies, and I know it's probably hard to choose, but what would you say was this was my favorite job?
Hands down, without a doubt, my favorite job was the one that I most recently finished earlier this year,
Hmm.
which was working for Virgin Voyages as a member of their Happenings cast, and I was known as the hostess. It was this very glamorous um, type of role where I was finally given an opportunity to be on stage singing in my own voice,
Hmm.
telling my story
Yeah.
as me. It was a role where, yes, certain aspects of it, they just wanted to be a very exaggerated version of myself, to
Hmm.
turn it, from 10 to 20.
Hmm.
But for the most part, I was hired for that job because they wanted me to just be me.
Yeah. Yeah.
And there was a lot of healing that came with that job that I didn't even know I needed.
Yeah. Yes. So, what's next for you, Allie?
Ooh, well, I am working on a couple of things. So right now I
Hmm.
am in between contracts. And that's something
Hmm.
that happens all the time in this industry.
Hmm.
Um, I had to learn that the hard way, actually.
Yeah.
I got very lucky. that of the 15 years that I've been in this industry, for the first 13, I was consistently employed in some way, shape, or form as a performer the whole time.
Mhm.
Even during the pandemic, because that was when
Yeah.
I booked Universal Studios Japan as a singer. Now, granted, I was still
Mm.
kind of in a costume there, but I was on stage and I was
Mhm.
singing.
It's
Yeah.
great. It's a great job.
And
Mhm.
so, like, even through the pandemic, I was living in Japan and then living in China, performing and singing and meeting all these amazing people. And when I got back from China, I went a full year of not booking anything. And that's not
Mm.
because I wasn't auditioning. I said not
Yeah.
booking. Did I was auditioning my butt off, and I was getting through callbacks, which, for
Mhm.
anybody listening who doesn't know what that is, callbacks are like the equivalent of second and third interviews for a really big job at a company. So I was getting very far in these auditions and then not booking, which is almost harder than
It
just
is.
getting. I'm gonna go ahead and say that's actually harder to deal with
Yep.
than just getting the no from the very beginning, because then oh, I got close. I had their attention. They saw something that they wanted. And
Yep. Mhm.
during
Mhm.
that year, I worked for my local YMCA as an assistant teacher for kindergarten, and I
Mhm.
did special effects makeup, because that is just another skill that I have, because I happen to really love makeup and Halloween and special effects makeup, so it's just a skill that I've picked up. Um,
Yeah.
During that year, I was working jobs that are miles away from the professional
Mhm.
entertainment industry.
Yeah.
Um, it was a rough year,
Mhm.
but it was a year of substantial personal growth
Wow. Great.
because I had the time and the means, and the access to really address some physical and mental health things that I had not addressed previously.
Mhm.
And it
Mhm.
changed a lot for me as a human being. And
That's big.
looking back, I can see that that year of not booking was needed for my personal
Mhm.
growth as a person,
Yeah.
to be prepared for the thing I did book. Because the thing I
Mhm.
did book was the hostess, and that was the biggest, best role I've had so far.
Yeah. Oh,
So now,
awesome.
yeah, I'm in a period of I've been auditioning again.
Mhm. Yeah.
Um, but this time I have booked a few things. I actually just booked and filmed my very first commercial.
Yay!
15 years in this
Congrats.
industry, and I finally booked one. Just saying, it can take that long, you know?
Mhm. Mhm.
Um, I actually also just got a phone call the other day. I'm not sure how much I'm allowed to say. It's just for
Mhm.
it's for a special event gig, in New York next
Yep.
week. Hopefully by the time this podcast comes out, you can insert here what it was. You know what it is. I know what it is, but I don't want to get in
Yep.
trouble for saying anything
Yep.
that I'm not
Mhm.
supposed to be saying.
Right,
So,
right. Yep, we won't do
you know,
it.
I'm auditioning, I'm booking. I just finished a round of writing classes up at not Universal, at
Mm.
Upright Citizens Brigade at their New York
Yeah.
campus. And the big focus right now is I'm going to go ahead and teach kindergarten again. And I'm going to go ahead and do special effects makeup again, because there ain't no shame in the game of having a job and bringing in money no matter what it is.
Ooh, that's good. That's good. That's good. Awesome.
Okay.
Mhm.
I'm not, don't be sitting here saying, I'm only going to accept the performance jobs. Honey, you're going to run out of money real fast.
Mm.
You
Mhm.
need your
Mhm.
skills and your survival jobs to go through the down periods of not booking consistent work. Yes, that commercial pays. Yes, this thing I'm hopefully doing next week will pay.
Mhm.
Not enough, not consistently to be able to like quit normal jobs.
Mhm.
But I'm doing all of that to save up, because beginning of next year, I'm looking to move back to Los Angeles
Mhm.
and follow the tug.
Yeah.
This tug is to a different aspect of storytelling. I still love to
Mhm.
sing, and I'm still going to obviously pursue singing professionally in some way,
Mhm.
shape, or form while I'm out there, whether it's, with a local band, being like a lounge singer at the restaurant or the local club or something, or, something
Yes.
like that. Just as long as I keep singing, I'm going to be happy. But my main
Mhm.
focus as a career is going to be diving back into voiceover more full time when I get back out
Yes.
there to build upon the relationships and connections I already have from living out there
Mhm.
previously. And I'm going to be diving in really hard at oh my God, I keep saying Universal, the Citizens Brigade,
Yeah.
because I have done professional improv performance for a very long time now, but
Mhm.
they have their own method and their own
Yep.
technique. And I
Mhm.
really want to learn that because there's a particular company I have my eyes on that I want to
Yep.
work for, that I want
Mhm.
to be a part of. It's if anyone's should I say what it is?
Yeah, absolutely. Put it
Um,
out there.
we're putting it out there. We're speaking it into existence. Um,
Mhm.
there is a company called Dropout. It is a streaming service that has been created. It came from College Humor. If anybody remembers
Mhm.
College Humor, I certainly do. This group of people that create and tell stories and bring laughter and joy and awareness. It's very niche, it's very nerd, it's very comedy, it's very particular. And there's just something about it. I'm a fan of the company. I'm a fan of a lot of the shows that they produce.
Yeah.
And you can just tell with the way that they speak to each other. And this is the stuff that makes it into editing. Because you and I
Mhm.
know a lot of editing happens in film and television. This is the stuff that makes it into editing. You can see how they speak to and about each other, how they treat
Yeah.
each other, the culture that they have clearly created there that is just so positive,
Yeah.
so loving and accepting. And, you know, I struggle a lot with anxiety
Mhm.
and, the ups and downs of this industry. In many ways, that company and the shows that they produce, they have become a comfort for me when I'm having a bad high anxiety day. They have
Mhm.
become, you know, something that brings consistent joy into
Yeah.
my life.
Oh,
And
that's great. Yeah.
for me, when I see something like that and I feel so pulled to it, it's because I want to be a part of that. I want
Mhm.
to help create something that brings that kind of joy to somebody else,
Yeah.
that brings that kind of comfort to someone else, to another
Mhm.
fellow nerd, just so that someone who's different in some way or not the norm of society in some way to know, hey, you're not alone. There's a
Yeah.
bunch of us out here and
Mhm.
we're living our most authentic, wonderful lives out loud so
Mhm.
that you can know, you, whoever you're living in small town somewhere, that you're not alone. There's more of us out
Yeah.
here.
That's great.
I want
That's
to be part of
great.
that. And a lot of those people come from UCB. So I want to get into UCB, start pursuing writing and producing more seriously, start pursuing more their specific type of improv because I know that is what it's going to take for me to be taken seriously to try and work for that company.
Awesome. Beautiful. So you're doing the work. You are
Yeah.
doing the work. And I love that you are targeting these. This is the company that I want to work or be a part of or work in. Yeah, absolutely. Beautiful. Awesome. Awesome. Okay, Allie, I have to ask because I know that, you do voiceover and it's just on a whole nother level. So if you
You
need to
do.
grab a sip of water,
You always do this.
by all means, I mean, Um, if
Hmm.
we could hear an impersonation or a different voice per se, and I mean, you choose, but I mean, we would love to hear a little Minnie Mouse if you have that. Um, but yeah, please take it away.
Hello? Oh, hello everyone. This is your good friend Minnie. Just
popping in to say hello. I love you, and I'm so proud of you. You're doing a great job, and I hope that whatever you're going through right now, whatever you may be facing, you remember who you are, that you are worthy of love and friendship, and that you are a good person. And I hope you have a wonderful day.
So good. It's so good. How does that not put you in the best of moods?
Guys, I love it. I love doing it.
Does. Oh my goodness, so joyful. I love that. Thank you so much, Aly. We really appreciate you being on the show. You are absolutely amazing, remarkable, and we wish you all the best in your career. We're sending great vibes for all of the next things to come. And thank you for sharing. Thank you for sharing your heart, your experiences, and your vulnerability.
Thank you. I'm really happy to be here. And I wanted to thank you actually for having me on, because it's easy to forget
Mm-hmm.
what your life looks like from the outside. Because
Wow.
when somebody says, "You've lived this incredible, remarkable life to me," it takes me it takes me by surprise, because in my head, I'm just me. I'm just
Mm.
Aly.
Yeah.
It's hard to see it when you're in it, living it every day, because I see all the failures. I see all of
Mhm.
the downtime and the things that I didn't get.
Yeah.
But from the outside, I forget to also having someone like you reminds me to don't forget to look at what you have done, what you have
Mhm.
accomplished, and the
Mhm.
fact that I haven't given up. 'Cause there's
Yeah.
been plenty of times I could have, I
Mhm.
came close to.
Mhm. Yeah.
I'm so glad that I didn't.
Me too. Me too. Thank you so much, Aly.
Thanks, Danny.
And one more thing before you go. If you've enjoyed this episode, please like, subscribe, leave it 5 stars, and share it with a friend. That incredibly helps our channel out. And we don't want you to miss any amazing nuggets that could change your life in any way or someone you know. So please share this with a friend, and remember, you have the power to design your remarkable life.